You might recall in the past I made some videos that feature the DCC, Philips 1990s digital follow-up to their 1960s analog compact cassette. Well, just a few weeks ago I met up with Ralph from the DCC Museum and he dropped a few interesting things off with me, and I'd like to share those with you today. And we'll start off with this one here. It's just a DCC. It doesn't look particularly remarkable. It is an album. It's the Bee Gees' Size Isn't Everything, and as far as albums go, it didn't really meet with much success. It got to number 153 on the Billboard 200, number 23 in the UK, but it did get to number 1 in Argentina on the back of a single that's on here, For Whom the Bell Tolls, which was particularly popular over there. But yeah, as far as albums go, not really all that remarkable. But as far as DCCs go, this one has something on it that is unique to this particular DCC. So let's start off by showing you that. In order to demonstrate what's different about this particular DCC, I'll first show you what happens with all the other DCCs that you put in one of these machines. I've got a couple of different devices here. We'll put Bob Marley in the top, we'll pop Prince in the bottom one, and once they get loaded into the device, you'll see on the screen here it will read the text off the DCC. So that's the track title, Could You Be Loved, and that's Let's Go Crazy on that one. I'll just press play on both of these though, just in case it's in a section between where the text information is held, so I can show you what the text button does. So they've both got this text button. If I press it here, the artist information comes up. It also says the album title on that one as well. And then there's the album title, Purple Rain. And then lyrics. Of course there's no lyrics, because how would you fit the lyrics on the screen? It was always a bit of an anomaly that there was this lyrics page. Total number of tracks, and then we're back to the track title. Now this is the only DCC that's known to exist that actually has lyrics that could display on these devices. Now I found it hard to believe that they could display the lyrics quickly enough on this screen here. I think there's, is it 16 characters on there? It's not very many, because it's all capitals on these. On some of the more recent ones, they had dot matrix displays that could display lowercase as well. I've got one of those machines, but it's not in the best of health at the moment, so we'll use this one here. So let's see what shows up once we pop the DCC in from the Bee Gees. So it's going to be reading the information once we get past the header, so we have to press play. It's the same thing that's happened with these other two. I've already got the tape spooled on a bit, so it's going on to track number 1 here. This is one of the issues with DCC. They do take a while to do things, although I do actually appreciate it in a way. But it's playing now. If we press the text button, we get the track title. This is Paying the Price of Love. Okay. The artist, the Bee Gees. The album title, Bee Gees' Size Isn't Everything. Now, here's the thing that I've never seen before, and I've been promised it's on this cassette. Let's have a look. Lyrics. I'm waiting for these to appear on the screen. Oh yeah, there they go. Wow. Try and read that along with the song. Now unfortunately I can't play you the song because the usual content match issues, but just have a look at this screen. Now that's crazy. I'm really having trouble reading that. It's making my eyes crossed. Now we haven't got the music to accompany it, so we don't know how well this is synced in, and I think I should try playing this cassette in the other machine, which I've got hooked up to the speakers at the moment, so let's do that. If we play clips of less than 4 seconds in length, we should get away without hitting any matches. So let's have a go. I'm just going back to the beginning of this one, because at the start they were doing some rather quick singing and it did fall quite a bit behind. It was quite comical. Nobody knows why this is the only DCC that has the lyric data included on it. There's no records with regard to that. Perhaps this was a test and the data was left on there by accident. The only way we managed to find that the lyrics are on here at all is because every time a new cassette is added to the DCC Museum's collection, they run it through a series of tests. And it must have been a surprise to see this information appearing on the screen on this particular tape after running through dozens of different cassettes and having nothing at all appear on them. But talking of the data, not just the lyric data, but data in general that appear on these, it was a bit of a revelation at the time. The DCC and the minidisc turned up at roughly the same time, and they both offered the feature of being able to display this information on the screen, the artist, the album, the track title. I remember when these machines first appeared, I thought that was really very impressive, being able to see the track information. And one feature that it allows you to do is to search for a track by name. So if we just get to the track title here and say I'm looking for Pinball Wizard, I know it's on here somewhere, I think it is anyway, there we go, Pinball Wizard. So it's searching for that one now. So rather than having to search for a track number and cross-referring that with the back of the cassette, you can look here and say, right, I'll just do it on the machine itself. Very nice feature, and it's nice to have it on CDs with CD text as well, but it started here. Anyway, that is the Bee Gees. Size isn't everything. It did actually sound like quite a decent album from the snippets that I was listening to then, so I'm going to go back and listen to that later, but let's go back to me again. Now, the next thing I want to show you also relates to the non-music data that's held on a DCC. The speed of the tape in a digital compact cassette is the same speed as it is in a regular analog compact cassette. And that speed of tape doesn't really pass through enough bandwidth to be able to reconstruct into a digital audio file that's really worth listening to. If you think back to loading a game into a 8-bit computer, it could take over 5 minutes to load in just 48K. Yeah, I know it wasn't done at the most efficient way, but still, there isn't an awful lot of bandwidth that can be passed through off a cassette if it's moving at real time. But there's a system that they employed to be able to get enough data on there. Similar problem met with videotape when they were trying to get enough information on there to hold a video signal. Now, there's one way of doing it: run the tape really fast, but then your tape runs out. No good for a home format where you're trying to put tape in a little cartridge. So they employed a head that rotates with a diagonal tilt on it. It lays down diagonal stripes of information on the tape, and you can put a heck of a lot of bandwidth in a small amount of slow-moving tape if you do it that way, using the whole width of the tape. The rotating head was used in the DAT, by the way. Similar system to the videotape. Little tiny rotating head. Pretty unreliable things. Maybe that's one of the reasons why the DCC went with a different system. So DAT is known as RDAT, rotating head digital audio tape. DCC is known as SDAT, stationary head digital audio tape. The way they got more information onto the same width of tape as a regular compact cassette is by having a head that lay down or read multiple tracks, 8 parallel tracks on either side of the tape. Those are reconstructed into the audio that you're listening to in real time. But there's another track going in either direction, total of 9 tracks. The 9th track is the one that holds track markers, tells the device how far away it is from a certain track, so when you try and skip to it, it knows where it's going to. At one point, Philips came out with a prototype device called an ITTS box, Interactive Text Transmission System. It enables you to see data that's held on a digital compact cassette, like a teletext page that could be played back through a television. Now, these were only prototypes. They've got one at the DCC Museum, if not 2, but I couldn't buy one anywhere. I think perhaps the idea was that they were going to incorporate that technology in a future DCC machine that would link up with your TV and also your audio system. But up till this point, I've had no opportunity to see the data that's held on a DCC because I can't get an ITTS box. Well, there's a nice chap who has made a new one, who's reconstructed the system, created a brand new ITTS box that links in with certain DCC machines. It's going to be made available through the DCC Museum, and that's one of the things I've got to show you as well. So let's have a look at it. Right, so here it is. It's known as the ITTS Box NG. It's made by Faulkner, and clearly it's a bit of a prototype, this one. We've got a 3D printed case here, and serial number 4 on the back there, powered by micro USB, and then we've got our digital in, either optical or coax, which of course attaches to the back of the DCC machine. And on the top here we've got a small LCD screen. Now, the way that this opens up, I can see that there's room for improvement here, because it does lock in position at the top, or at least it's supposed to. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, then sometimes it gets stuck and you can't get it back down again. There's supposed to be a button here that locks it in position. So a bit of work to do with the case, but the tech is what we're interested in here. So let me connect this up and I'll show you exactly what it does, and I'll prop this up, I think, with something so that we can get it at a sensible angle. Once the power has been applied to the device, we get this information appearing on the screen. This is a touch screen, so to access any of these items we can just tap on the screen. It's similar to that text button where we could cycle through these. Now at the moment I'm playing a Marvin Gaye album. Let's just have a look at the track list of this one. There we go, it's what's going on, and we're currently on track 1. So let me just jump to a different track using the buttons on the device itself. I'm going to jump to Flying High. So it should highlight that we're on Flying High once it gets there. But in the meantime, whilst it's working its way through to that, let's just click on the artist information. Once it gets to the next track, it's going to change the information at the top here as far as the songwriters on this particular track. There we go, Flying High, 3 minutes 48. So it's showing us the particular information for the track rather than the artist. The album button just says Marvin Gaye, so you can see it's a little bit muddled up, but if we go back to the track list we can see that number 3 is highlighted. Lyrics don't appear on this particular DCC, so we get the default screen instead. If we click on Special, we'll see if there's anything there. No, nothing there either. But Menu, that shows us this. So this would be appearing perhaps on a screen of a device at some point, and you'd be able to select the items by using the buttons on it. So if we go to the scroll here, we can choose the track list, say in the middle, and if we click enter there, that shows us the information that we were just looking at. I've run the majority of my DCCs through the box. What you're seeing on screen now is a random selection of the information that I found on them. You might see the occasional blacked out line appearing across some of the images. That will be down to data that hasn't been read cleanly. If you've ever tried to read teletext with a less than perfect television signal, you'll no doubt have encountered something like this before. You can either wait until that data's refreshed and the line's filled in, or you can eject and reinsert the cassette and hope that it reads it in full next time. Now it's interesting to see the different approaches that have been made to this text facility by the various different companies. All the tapes that I tried did have a track list and a main menu. Presumably those were compulsory fields. But there were also separate pages for the album and the credits for the currently playing track on some of the tapes. The button for the credits is currently labelled as Artist on this screen, but I think it should be Credits because that's how it's referred to on the main menus from some of the tapes that do include this information. Now the information in the fields varies wildly, with some just opting for the bare minimum, while others have gone to the trouble of creating some quite elaborate designs. Of course, it's all quite basic still due to the limitations of the system, but there's been some extra effort made by some of these companies, and I assume that people spending the time creating the graphics expected these were going to be seen by the general public, but it took 30 years for that to come true. Now, from my tapes, from my collection, none of them displayed the lyrics because I don't have any tapes with that feature on. But now I've got the Bee Gees cassette to try. We can see what the lyrics look like when this one is shown, and it's loaded in as pages of text. Once all the lyrics on a page have been sung, the next page loads in. As on a karaoke machine, the currently highlighted words are the ones that are being sung, in this case in yellow, although I found that the highlighting was only showing up occasionally when I played this tape via my smaller DCC player, so I've swapped over to the larger one where it's working perfectly. But this isn't the only title that I've got to show you that includes the lyrics. Ralph also gave me this tape, Human Wheels by John Mellencamp. I think he dropped the cougar at this point. Anyway, this particular cassette has lyrics that display in a more interactive manner, where the words appear in time with the music. I'll show you what I mean. Right, so as you can see from the main menu on this one, there's quite a bit more going on. We've got the usual album title, track listing and artist, but this one does include lyrics, which I'll show you in a moment. But down at the bottom here, we've got the band and dedication. So let's choose one of these. Now, we don't have a shortcut for these at the bottom of the screen, so we're going to have to use the controls. So here, if I move the cursor down, we can select the band by pressing enter, and you can see there's the information about the band, and it says more. So over the page, more information, and this is the final page, even more. So this is the equivalent of sleeve notes. But let's go into the lyrics, because this is where things get interesting. You can see, rather than having a full page of text with things being highlighted, we're getting the text that just relates to the thing that's being sung at the moment, and it's been laid out in an interesting manner as well. Now, unfortunately, I can't play the audio to go along with this, but trust me, this is synced in perfectly with the singing that's on this particular track. It's shown in a variety of different ways, one word at a time, moving lines around, and sometimes we get nice little designs on the screen that link in with the song as well, the way the words are laid out in certain patterns. It's a very interesting little thing, this, and just think, it was always there on the DCC, it's just nobody was able to access it. Another interesting thing with the lyrics, whenever a new track starts, you get a graphic that reflects that particular track. So let's go on to it now, and this is Human Wheels that's just about to start playing. We haven't got into the section where the lyrics need to be displayed, so we'll get this splash screen at the beginning. It's quite interesting to see what kind of graphic they've come up with for each track. Let's have a look at some others. Right, so this track is called Case 795 The Family, and that is supposed to look like a folder, the kind that you get in a filing cabinet. Now you can see it's a bit experimental, it doesn't always come through properly. For example, for this track, I'm pretty sure that is supposed to be a full diamond in the middle. Perhaps at this point they ran out of inspiration. So there you go, that's the ITTS Box NG from Faulkner. I don't know when these are going on sale and how much they're going to cost, and even if they're going to look like this, I hope there's some more work done on the case. This is clearly a prototype design, it needs a bit more time spending on it, but all the hard work's already been done here as far as getting the information off the DCCs, all that extra data that's been hidden on there all these years and most people have never had the opportunity to see. I'll be honest that most of the information that I found on mine isn't all that important, but still it's nice to be able to get more out of something that you already own. So there you go, the ITTS Box NG. Keep an eye on the DCC Museum website, and perhaps there'll be some more information coming along about this in the future. And the final item that I've got to show you today is this. It's a new release. Over the last few years, the DCC Museum have brought out a new title each year on the format, and this one is their latest. I'm not too sure what it's going to cost because there's going to be a variety of different levels of packaging for this. They've given me the Super Deluxe Mega Over the Top Edition. I can't even say it's a box set, it's a ball set. Let me show it to you. I can guarantee you've never seen a cassette packaged like this before. There you go, it's a disco ball. And if you look at the top there, you might recognise that silhouette. And it also acts as the handle to open it up. And what have we got in here? Well, we've got a DCC, and a regular cassette, well, almost regular with that same silhouette on it. I'll just put those to one side and you can see here a design on the back there. And if we look inside the top, that is where the information about the release is held, and as you can see, it's Divine. See a bit of a design there which links in with that on the front. So let's just get the disco ball out of the way. I'll just mention first though, handmade these. Somebody has stuck all these mirrors on themselves. This will be expensive due to the man hours. You don't have to buy it in this form, you could just buy the DCC. So the DCC we're looking at is this one here, Divine Extended, and it does actually come with a case, and I'm sure there'll be a version that's just this, like that as well. And this second cassette that's here has got some additional remixes on. Now the interesting thing about this cassette is that it is just a regular cassette. It's not a DCC, but it's been designed to be played in a DCC by the fact that the tape stock that's in here is more akin to that used in a DCC. In fact, it's the same stuff. DCC tape is really closer to videotape quality than it is to regular analog compact cassette tape. As a result, if you use regular tape in a DCC machine, you risk wearing out the heads because they're a little bit more delicate. So, to avoid that happening, this additional tape has been made on regular DCC tape that's been respooled inside a normal cassette shell, and therefore if you play this one in your DCC machine, you're not going to damage it at all. It'll just be like playing a normal DCC. So you can see on here what's on this particular tape. We've got some remixes done by Ben Liebrand, and on the regular one, some more Ben Liebrand stuff there. I mean, I can't play any of this to you. It's a bit of a compilation from different albums, this. Yeah, we can see 1982, 83. I should put my rotating bass under that disco ball. From the brief conversation that I had with Ralph, I believe a lot of work has gone into the mastering of this, going back to the original tapes or recordings as much as possible, but also using AI technology to pull out the individual strands and remix them to a better quality than they have ever been before. So if you're interested in getting the best quality divine recordings, well, I think these are those. And if you're wondering, this is what the DCC looks like through the ITTS box. Notice we're in the special menu for the first time here, because this is a super user tape. It's the way that they've got of writing these tapes. Unfortunately, they can't use the original equipment. It no longer exists. So the best that they can do to get a new DCC out is to use super user mode on the portables, and therefore they're only able to populate this page of information. So we've got the album title, the artist name, and the track title. But you'll notice as we go through the other options here, there's nothing under those, and it's just because they can't get the data onto the tapes in the same way they originally did back in the 1990s. Now, due to the way the track titles are written onto these special tapes, the information isn't there all the time along track 9. It's only there at the beginning of a new track. So if we skip to the next track along, you'll see the track title will appear on the screen here. But also it's very much dependent upon what kind of DCC machine you've got. This is a DCC 730, and this can display the text, as you can see here. However, if I was to put this cassette into my DCC 91 below, it will just show the track numbers. Now, I mentioned over the last few years that the DCC Museum have put out a new title on the format each year, and they try and outdo themselves with the packaging for the format each time. And as a result, they've won a packaging award in the past, an International Packaging Award. I can't think that anyone's going to top this. I mean, if you're looking for an over-the-top packaging design for a cassette, well, you're not going to get any more over the top than that. So I suggest that they clear a space on their award shelf for another award. I can't imagine anyone outdoing this one. But talking about clearing space, I don't know where I'm going to put it. That's my DCC shelf over there under the on-air sign. Vast majority of that are DCCs. There's perhaps a couple at the corners that aren't, but most of those are. And I thought I'd got all the DCCs I wanted a few years ago. I drew a line under it. I was like, that's the end of that now. I don't need to really get involved in that format too much anymore. And with everything else going on, I haven't really been playing them all that much. It's only really when I've been playing around with this that I realise why it was I originally got into them. There's just something very tactile and pleasing and slightly comical about the fact that you've got a digital album on a cassette and it's like fast forwarding to get to the next track. It's that kind of combination between analog and digital, that kind of crossover. It's a format that is, it's got an endearing quality to it. And perhaps that's why the DCC Museum got involved, because they found it equally fascinating and wanted to collect everything together. And in the past, people have said to me, why is there a DCC museum? People are a bit perplexed by the idea. Like, why would you need a DCC museum? Well, talking as someone who's made videos about various formats that have been and gone, defunct formats, sometimes I'll just have like a cartridge for a format. And that's the only thing I've got. I haven't got the player. I haven't got any information about it. I'll do a Google search and I'll look through all old magazines. There's nothing. I'll find things that there's just nothing about, and it's just been forgotten to time. Well, all the people that were working on the DCC that they could get in touch with, they've interviewed, they put out a documentary. They've stored all the information. They've got the interviews on the website. They've got videos. They even do repairs on them as well. They've collected all the hardware together, all the different releases that came out on the cassette. They're still finding new releases around the world. There's no full list of what came out on DCC, so they're always finding new titles. And as far as those repairs go, Ralph showed me a little component he brought with him that was for repairing the Mark I machines, I think. The very first ones that came out, they had a surface mount component that fails in them. And if you were to try and repair it, it's one of those jobs with a microscope, very complicated. Well, they've created a replacement board that does the same thing as the original, that just slots in, and they can replace that board a lot quicker than trying to repair that circuit. So if anyone has a broken Mark 1 type machine, if you want to know what mark your machine is, go on the DCC museum website, then they probably can repair that issue for you. But if you want to know more about any of the things I've shown you, or just DCC in general, then the information for the DCC Museum is on the screen now. But that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.